And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. This is Paul's acknowledgement that none of this is easy. Even though we have the Holy Spirit, it's easier to quit than it is to keep following the Spirit. It is easier to judge people who stumble than it is to restore them. It is easier to ignore everybody else's pain instead of getting involved in their lives. It's easier to criticize those who are serving the Lord than it is to serve Him yourself. And it's definitely easier to be angry all the time and always looking for a fight than it is to love people in Jesus' name. And I don't know, I'm not the Holy Spirit. I don't know who's struggling here today. I just bet that in a room this size, there's probably at least a handful of people who barely made it here emotionally. And there may even be some people here who are like, I'm giving this church one last chance. And you're right on the verge of quitting whatever ministry God has called you to do. And maybe it's because you've been praying for that one person for so long and you haven't seen any impact of those prayers. Or maybe it's because you've been doing this ministry for so long and you don't see that it's changing any lives or really resulting in anything good. Or maybe it's because you're trying to represent Him well on your campus or in your workplace and people just make fun of you and you don't see any life change. Or maybe it's because your marriage is struggling or your child is rebellious or your sibling won't reconcile with you or your former best friend has stabbed you in the back. Maybe it's because your health continues to get worse and your finances, you can't recover what you've lost. Or maybe it's this church itself that's got you discouraged. And Paul's analogy is, listen, when you plant something, just understand the weeds are going to grow faster than the plant. If the weeds bore fruit, we'd all be farmers. But instead, you have to hoe those weeds out. You have to keep that plant watered. You have to keep that plant fertilized. You have to keep everything humming. You have to stay on top of it. You can't give up. You can't walk away because someday you're going to be eating what you planted if you don't quit.